Welcome to Hello Baltimore County. I'm Ellen Kobler. On February 18th, County Executive Kevin Kamenetz announced a new annual award, the Lewis S. Diggs Award, honoring African American heritage in Baltimore County. The award is named for Baltimore County resident Lewis Diggs, a respected authority on Baltimore County's African American history. The first recipients of the award were Audrey Simmons and Ray Banks, who created the Hubert V. Simmons Museum for Negro Leagues Baseball. The award ceremony was held at the Owings Mills Library, home of the Hubert V. Simmons Museum for Negro Leagues Baseball. Mr. Lewis Diggs' exhaustive research has led him to publish 10 books, present lectures and historic tours, and manage the Diggs-Johnson Museum in Granite, Maryland. Hello Baltimore County recently visited the museum. Let's take a look. We're here at the Diggs-Johnson Museum in Granite in western Baltimore County with Mr. Lewis Diggs himself. Thank you so much for hosting us.
Oh, thank you so much for getting us some publicity. We really appreciate it.
Sure, you're tucked away on Offit Road, and it is just the most beautiful facility. And when you look at the work that you and your colleagues have done to take what was a very dilapidated building that dated back to how far?
Cornerstone says 1887. Sun Paper, 1869. Said this church was also here.
All right, so you and your group have restored it to just magnificent beauty and offering wonderful displays of African American life going back a century and a half, right?
Right.
Yeah. Now, why don't you first please tell us a little bit about your own background and how you got into the African American history?
Okay. First of all, I would like people to know that I didn't even start doing this sort of research until first I retired from 20 years in the military, 20 years in the civil service, and when I was about 60, that was 25 years ago, I started down in the Winters Lane community where kids from the Catonsville High School, my children had me go there to become, asked me to be a role model to the boys because I did teach youngsters in the military. Sergeant Major out in Morgan for years, and DC school system, I taught ROTC. So I was pretty good with boys. I only have 4 sons myself. So when I went there, not only did these kids really accept me, but they are the ones that convinced me to start some serious research. And that was because the class that I was teaching, it was about how to research your family roots in your community. And we found that the black children in the Winters Lane area knew absolutely nothing about how their community began. They couldn't find anything. The library, the Catonsville Historical Society, nothing. And at the end of my class, which went an entire half a semester, these kids begged me to help them find a little bit of history about where they came from. I said to them, look, I'm not really from Baltimore County, I'm from Baltimore City. But I couldn't say no to them.
Yeah.
And they motivated me to write my first book. It all started on Winters Lane. And that's when I found that there was no history of black life anywhere in the county except during the slavery era. So I just started one book, and now I'm working on my 11th.
11 books later. All right. Well, please tell us a little bit about this beautiful museum where we're sitting.
Okay, this museum started as it's called Cherry Hill AUMP, African Union Methodist Protestant Church. And Linwood Johnson, who has been my mentor for years, we were able to locate the last surviving trustee, Mrs. Helen Johnson. She was really up in age. And this is when I started to do my research on my 6th book, Surviving in America, about this particular community. And she wanted her little church saved so bad. And she asked Linwood and I, she said, if I gave you this church, would you promise me you would try to save it? And we said that yes, we would try to save it. So we immediately formed a nonprofit organization. and accepted the building and the grounds which we own, our nonprofit organization owns. And thanks to, actually she's on our board, Adrian Jones, Speaker Pro Tem, she did arrange to get us a nice grant to start our process. And believe me, Ella, that was about almost 10 years ago.
Yeah.
But we got $300,000 from the state. That was increased later to $400,000, or pretty close to $400,000. In Baltimore County, it was then the Office of Community Conservation. Oh my God, they gave us I don't know how many thousands of dollars to do survey work. Had to go to Pennsylvania to get a company to survey where the cemetery is to be sure that we don't interfere with any of the, the burial sites. It just took an awful long time to get all this done, but thanks to the county and to the state, November of 2015, we were finally able to convert this church, changed absolutely nothing on the exterior of the church because we will get it designated historic. And instead of just hiring an architect to work along with us, I hired a preservation architect. His name was Roger Katzenberg, who made sure that this building stayed within the guidelines of the Secretary of Interior's standards so that there would be no problem getting it designated historic, which I haven't done yet, but I certainly will do. So
Well, it's been just a labor of love for you.
Truly, for all of us.
We'd love to take a look around in just a moment, but first, please tell people about the special event that you have in the month of February for Black History Month.
Yes, our board is, we're hosting a special program during Black History Month. We will have 2 activities here during that day, one from 10 to 12 and the other from 1 to 3. And because of the extremely limited parking that we have, the cemetery takes up just about all the parking. So we will manage parking for people on the grass and so forth. And because we cannot park on Alfred Road, it's just too small.
Sure.
So these 2 programs are really special because we have a wonderful display by Mrs. Cocky and my grandmother's trunk where I'm hoping that people bring children so they can actually physically see what life was like and what they wore and whatever they did, the photographs. Miss Cocky have it all. Also, we will have a display and talk about Henrietta Lacks down in the Turner Station area. They will be here as well.
Very nice. All right. I'm anxious to see what you have here.
Great, let's go.
All right. And our tour guide here for the museum is none other than Francis Cocky, who is the owner of a good bit of the collection that we'll be seeing in just a moment. Shall we start by looking at this wonderful book that you've created?
Yes, okay. Well, this was created to help young people understand family life. And I found so many pictures of my ancestors, and I had them enlarged and created this big book. And as I traveled throughout the state of Maryland, I took this book with me. And page by page, I went through and talked about my family.
Very nice, and
Okay.
with beautiful penmanship, I must say.
Oh, thank you.
Let's take a look at some of the fascinating artifacts
all right.
that you have here, and how did they come to make it to the museum?
Well, actually, if we take a look over here, this gentleman was my maternal great uncle, and he lived on Bond Avenue in Reisterstown. And when he passed in 1984, I was asked to be one of the trustees of the estate. So when I went into his house, I got a chance to go through and go upstairs, and I noticed a ladder in the bathroom, and I said, "What's there?" I was talking to the executor, and he went up and said, "Oh, there are lots of things up in the attic."
Nice.
And I said, "Well, let me go up." When I took a look, this is where I found 5 trunks, and I thought, "Oh, I wonder what's in there."
Yeah.
And at the time, I was working in the Baltimore City Schools as a support teacher, and I thought, wouldn't young people like to see some of these old things?
Oh, it's incredible.
Yeah, so it took me days and days to, pick through. And one of the largest trunk was my great-grandmother's trunk.
Oh, your great.
Right, so you'll see many artifacts. And
Well, show us some of your favorite things, would you?
right, okay. Well, one of the favorite things here is, this is my great-grandmother right here, Rebecca Frances Parkman. She was born in 1861. And there's a copy of her marriage license. She was married in 1881. Okay, so these are some of the things I found, like in the kitchen of that house. And so if we move around, this is, his name was John Jacob Lee, and he was a cook at Hannah More Academy in Reisterstown for over 50 years. So he accumulated a lot of property. So when he passed, you know, we were able to auction all the property and use the proceeds to help 32 family members and other young people go to college.
Oh my goodness!
So
isn't that wonderful?
yes, so
Speaking of school, I see some educational
yes,
items here.
yes. So there were things, the old school papers that belonged to my great aunt Leolia. And they are, you can see 1908, 1914. I thought, oh my heavens, these things are about 100 years old. This was in Leolia's trunk. This was her doll, right.
Yeah.
Here's some of the school books that they used there, and their names were in front of the books. Tintype photos, you don't see too many of those around today. Right. I remember this as a child because they used to give out boxes of candy in the churches at Christmas time, the hard candy. So I had a little collection of what was going on in the church also.
Here we hit the fashion.
Yes, come along and remember things formerly fashionable. So these are some of the shoes. I saved, I gave away some of the things. So here we are again. Here's some of the hats. There were loads and loads of hats up there in hat boxes. So I probably took about 6 of those.
The sleeping cap here.
Yes, yes it is, yes. And I remember this from a child because my grandmother also used to use these tapestries on the wall. Instead of pictures, people put tapestries on the wall. And in the spring, they took them down, took them outside, and you beat the dust out, put them away. In the fall, they went back up on the wall again.
There's an old school curling iron.
Yes, for the hair.
Put it in the fire, and then I imagine you had to time it pretty well before you put it in your hair.
Yes, and here's one of the ways they heated, you know, these
straightening
comb. There's another thing, a pulley.
Petition stove.
Right.
Wow.
There were a number of ice shavers there. This is what they used when they made snowballs. See, and they would have a cake of ice and it would shave, and this would fill up with crushed ice.
Oh, nice.
And the soap shaker right there. Okay, these are, this is a collection with the Diggs Johnson Museum.
And this is a photograph of someone who might be familiar to a lot of people.
Yes, Henrietta Lack's family. Yes, okay. So, okay,
Well, thank you for showing us your wonderful collection, and we absolutely invite people to go on your website and come out and visit, as well as come into your special event on.
It'll be wonderful. Okay,
Thank you so much for having us.
Welcome.
All right, and we'll be right back with more of Hello Baltimore County.